Well, here we are for an episode of the Shopify App Show live here in Toronto. We're going to get straight into it because we got a lot to cover. I think you just said we got way too much to cover in half an hour. So we'll just see how we go. We'll get through what we get through. We've got, Jonathan Zazove, or Jay-Z, I believe people call you. So Director of Product at Shopify. So probably one of the most relevant people we could be talking to here with all the stuff that's happening in the app ecosystem and all the at DotDev. So very excited to have you here. And also Mike Rossi from Smile, who has a big smile on your face today because you just won a Shopify Build Award. How's that for an intro?
It's pretty fresh. If it wasn't so hot in Toronto, I'd be wearing the jacket as well. But super happy to win that.
Yeah, no, we don't need jackets on here. And I need to plug my sponsor, the Support Heroes, for before we get started too, because they sponsor my episodes when I do them in my garage and 50 people watch them. So I need to make sure I give them a plug here today. And I saw the Cowboy guy doing his podcast yesterday too, and he had about 50 logos on his screen. So I've got a bit of a long way to go to get there. So I'm going to start up with you, Jonathan. So I put in my notes, so you might hate me for this. I've written you down as the patron saint of the Shopify app ecosystem at the moment, because it's been an emotional roller coaster in that space. Obviously, that app developers are very passionate about not just their own product, but the authenticity of the ecosystem itself. And we've seen an explosion of apps in Shopify App Store and AI and all that stuff. And there's a lot been happening and a lot announced over the last couple of days or even couple of weeks around things you're doing to improve that. So I'd love to maybe just get you to talk us through that.
Yeah, definitely. So, one thing is that I'm really dedicated to making sure the App Store is just a very authentic and safe space for merchants. And then also it's a very safe place for developers to invest in, right? Like you and others are spending a lot of time and energy making sure you build great apps. And so we want to just help merchants find folks like you who are really investing in authentic and really, great experiences. So some of the things that we are investing in that I've talked about publicly, I'll just review, which is number one, we really want to make sure that apps that are incentivizing reviews are penalized for that. And I think there hasn't been enough of a penalty in the past. And so we've started to introduce a stronger penalty, which we've documented as part of the App Store requirements now. And so what you'll see is that apps that are incentivized reviews will no longer have those reviews. We will actually just take them away. And as opposed to unlisting them and then they keep them and then they rank higher. So we said, okay, let's just take them away from them because that's the fairest thing we can do. The other thing we want to do is just make sure that merchants are finding authentic apps. So there's a lot of copycatting that's going on in the App Store. And we know that the cost of that is a little bit lower, especially with LLMs. So how do we make the App Store just a place where if merchants are searching for Smile, like how do they find the proper Smile app? Let's not find this Smile 2 app, right? That's not actually made by your company. You laugh, but it's true. So we have some work to do there, but we started by creating another App Store requirement that's just going to enforce uniqueness of name. And so we still have a lot of work to do there, and I will acknowledge that, but we really want to make the App Store a place where merchants, when they're finding something, they can find it. And you as developers don't have to worry that somebody's going to come in and with a copycat app and misrepresent your brand.
Yeah, awesome. And it's the feedback is people are really appreciating that. And I think, but as you say, it's a very complex beast to work with. But Mike, I'd love to hear from you, like how you've obviously been in the app ecosystem a very long time. And you've obviously the Build Award today is obviously a huge milestone for you after this journey. But how important are things like beyond, we talk about reviews and just the authenticity of and those app rankings. But what are the other things in the Shopify ecosystem that are really important for keeping it to be a credible marketplace?
Yeah, I think the history on us as Smile is we were an agency, and we actually launched our Smile app as a free-only loyalty app because it was, at the time, this is going way back, but Shopify didn't have customer accounts. They introduced customer accounts, and then we launched our sort of proof of concept loyalty program for Shopify. We started to get reviews and we started to see the momentum and the trust from the community build. And as we've moved upmarket and supported reviews, it's actually been a good differentiator for us to be able to show larger merchants, hey, you can trust us due to our Shopify App Store listing and due to the Built for Shopify badge and due to the review volume there. So I think when some apps they move up market, they kind of forget about the app store, or they de-emphasize the importance of it. But I actually view it the other way. I think it becomes more important and will become. I mean, based on what Jay-Z's mentioned, I think it will become more important for these apps who are looking to support enterprise brands to actually have a very legitimate Shopify App Store presence, because without it, you're kind of flying blind if you trust an app just based on their enterprise sales cycle or talking to their salespeople. You want to see something real and supported by Shopify. So that's a big thing for us. And then the other thing has been the Built for Shopify certification. So I know it's been a lot of work for a lot of apps to get this, but I think you come out the other side with a great experience for merchants where there's an embedded admin experience where merchants aren't switching tabs all over the place. So there's benefits like that have come along for the ride. And in addition, like it helps apps with installs and get discovered and stuff like that. So I think the combination of like, as we've moved up market from starting as this free only app helping the very smallest merchants to now helping some larger merchants, it's been really important for us to maintain that presence in the App Store and ensure that we're obviously like keeping a really good trusted presence on that side of things too.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, like the Built for Shopify, actually, I was really stoked when I got my ribbon for the event. I got the blue ribbon was a lovely touch. So I was very excited to get, and you got the grey one for the Build Awards, which is very cool. And those little things are, they're nice little touches.
It's really cool details around the whole conference for sure.
But I also, the other key theme I've found over the last couple of days from a few of the talks and just conversations is that it's also the stuff you do to be embedded in the platform is really important too, isn't it? So there's obviously Sidekick app extensions, but also just seeing like just common themes around having things that actually work within the platform that feel native in the platform, and that's do you want to talk through some of those sort of those things within the platform that you can do that make it better and also make your app a better product too, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I can even take you even further back because when I started, I noticed that apps were really like almost like second-class citizens inside the admin, where merchants would have experiences, but then they would get ejected out to apps, and it just felt very disjointed and not really how work gets done. And so really we started investing heavily in like, how do we have apps more integrated into the workflows that are happening inside the admin? We started with admin UI extensions, which allow any app to put pieces of their app inside core details pages like products and customers and things like that. And then we also enabled admin intents, and that allows you to call native parts of Shopify from your app. So if you're creating a discount or creating a product, you don't have to build your own UI around that. You can just summon the existing Shopify native UI from like one line of code. And then finally, as you mentioned, Sidekick extensions. And this is the next level, which is allowing Sidekick to do two things. One, access your app's data directly from the conversations from Sidekick without having to leave your app, without having to go to a separate analytics page, maybe even from the mobile app. Maybe there's a merchant on a weekend trying to ask for conversion data, and they can get that data directly from the conversation. And then the second integration with Sidekick, which I'm most excited about, is the action experience, which is it can pull up a URL from your app that already exists and do some form filling and interact with those elements of the page. That's never been done. And Sidekick can call that wherever they are. So it doesn't have to open your app. It's aware of what your app can do. And can summon your app and take those actions. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it's like just the opportunity, and I think people are only just really starting to tap into it. And Mike, I know you've already started building a Sidekick extension with Smile and rolled out some of that.
Yeah, like we see the main job we're replacing at merchants is like the loyalty program manager. And if you think about how Sidekick can be your loyalty program manager, that requires understanding how your retention data looks right now, if you have a loyalty program, how it's performing, and then what things you can do in terms of the structure, promotions with the loyalty program. So it's like the data, and then there's the actions. And when we think forward to the future, it's not too hard to sort of extrapolate from people running their businesses in Claude right now to running their Shopify business using Sidekick. So we need to make sure that the sort of agent-facing UX is there so that Sidekick can actually do everything that a loyalty program manager would do. And so I think that's what every app should be thinking through, is like, how's Sidekick going to operate your app the same way that someone would be sort of clicking around. And you're very UX constrained if you're trying to take all the admin things of your app and put them into Shopify admin, but you're no longer UX constrained if you're using Sidekick. So basically the scope of things that can get done is really huge. But
yeah. All right. I had about 3 questions about this to go through, but now after hearing you both talk for a minute, I've now got about 50 questions in my mind, all going around in circles. So I'll do my best to keep this structured. But I'd love to I'd like to sort of drill down into where you see Sidekick still being Sidekick coming in, and where you also see I think app interfaces and the stuff that lives in the product part of an app, I think is still really important as well.
Yeah.
What's sort of what's the threshold for where people should be building stuff into Sidekick, but also where they should be getting them back into that app interface, where I think building good interface and good interaction is actually really important as well.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we're gonna see. We're kind of in a wait and see moment. I think there's going to be really toilsome experiences, like filling out really challenging forms that, maybe humans don't want to do that, and they want to make that more conversational. But those forms can be easily accessed, because if you need to visualize the representation of what you did, well, now you can see that in a very visual way and understand, oh, that is what I actually, conversed with this AI, and now it's actually representing that. So I think we're going to wind up still really wanting both, because humans are very visual, but we're also very conversational. And so I think investing in good UI is going to always be really important, because I think we're going to still need proof from the AI that they did the thing we asked them to do. So yeah,
absolutely. And how do you prevent and I've spoken to quite a few people, and I've tried to do it myself, but I'm not a good enough developer. But actually building a Sidekick extension can be quite easy. Is it something people should just get started and do, or is there a risk that people can be a bit gimmicky with using it and not actually achieve anything with it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I always come back to, in my talk yesterday, is solve real problems. I think a fail case would be just opening a page, and that page just gave you a URL and it opened to another tab. I think that's not really what it's meant for. It's really meant for work happening in context. And so, your apps and other apps are solving real problems. And a lot of those problems are solved on your app home surface. But it's very easy to bring a lot of those problems anywhere. And so really that's the idea of that. It's much less an advertising surface and much less a surface to, eject you out of a workflow. It's much more intended to keep you in those workflows. And I think a lot of apps have a couple core jobs to be done, and, bringing those core jobs to be done front and center.
Yeah. If I can just add something. So we've built a few apps in our history, and the number one thing that merchants always wonder when they're installing an app is is this working? Is this doing anything? Is anything happening? And you, as an app provider, we've done this many times, you build a homepage, you build analytics to try and show, hey, here's what's going on. Here's the fact that it's working, and here's the value it's providing. But that's usually a few clicks away. It's usually a few menu items deep or whatever. So now there's an opportunity to put that front and center into a homepage UX. And that's a really cool opportunity, low lift for a lot of app providers to be able to do. And it's it's probably the number one reason for churn, other than a business going under. It's probably the number one reason of churn for most apps. It's I don't know what it's doing. It doesn't seem to have done anything. I can't remember installing this. If you could just ask a quick question, hey, is this doing anything? Is my loyalty program performing? What could I do? That stuff is now very accessible. So I think the combo of it being easy to develop for is pretty compelling.
Yeah, absolutely. And then another thing that sort of interests me is MCP servers are obviously another tool that a lot of apps are exploring, whether they should offer MCPs or AIs or APIs, whatever all those different acronyms that you can use. But is there value in an app to also have that MCP layer that can talk into, so you can ask Claude those questions and pull that? Do you think, I'd love probably both your views on that, because like Shopify might have a different view to what an actual app does.
Yeah, like I think we tried really hard to make the developer experience for the Sidekick extensions as close to MCP as possible. So we've tried to make it very familiar. Obviously, there's like, some TOML things that are very Shopify specific, but we tried to make it very easy for apps that are already, exposing these tools maybe to other AI. And so that was definitely the idea and the aim. And if we didn't achieve that, you should give us feedback and we can improve that. But that was definitely the aim. Yeah.
Yeah. And what about you, Mike?
Yeah, I think it depends who your user is. So for us, our user is typically a marketer. And like the average marketer isn't connecting MCP servers to like Claude or ChatGPT. And so as a result, like something like Sidekick is a lot more accessible for that persona. That said, if you're working with developers, like different story, and maybe your own MCP server makes sense. But for us, probably doesn't, just because it won't be used by 95+% of our core user base.
Yeah, awesome. And I'd love to understand like the loyalty space. It's like so different to when you first started out, and you've obviously had to evolve a lot. Like what are the areas where people are most poking around at your product at the moment? Like are there, and I wasn't going to ask it in this context, but like what are the questions that people are asking about Smile? Like what is this giving me value? What can I do to get more out of my loyalty program? What sort of conversations are you seeing there?
Yeah, I mean, when we first launched Smile, loyalty was more of a nice to have for brands, because ads were so cheap that you could be first purchase profitable in many, many categories. That's not the case anymore. And sometimes brands are break even or even losing money on their first purchase, and they rely on the lifetime value over time to actually make the customer lifetime value be higher than the acquisition cost. And so loyalty becomes something really important for the brand to tick up that lifetime value over time. But brands want proof that this is going to happen. And I think one of the things we've been able to do as a company is show aggregate proof of this. Like on average, our customers go from this lifetime value or this retention rate to this retention rate over time. But merchants are smarter, and they're increasingly smarter over time, and they want more granular like events. Yep. Like they want to know, hey, I did this points promotion where I did 2x points like this weekend. What did that do for me? And so one of our big focuses is helping brands see like, hey, you did this and then you got this, and showing on a more granular basis the efficacy of the loyalty program and how you were able to get a higher retention rate with a lower effective discount than your sort of 20% off for your email type of thing.
Yeah, awesome. And like there's a lot of those mechanisms now that are pretty, that you could either use the word tried and tested, or you could also use fatigued to describe some of those mechanisms that have been in the loyalty ecosystem for a long time. Yeah. How do you keep balancing that, where you've obviously got a product that has worked so well for a long time, but people need new mechanisms to reward customers and keep them coming back?
Yeah, so this is so we do one thing that's probably a little unique to us. Like there's massive loyalty programs out there. So there's Sephora, Starbucks, the airlines, they all run these like great loyalty programs. What we do is we look at the mechanisms that those programs do and that they keep, and then we try and replicate those. Whereas I think with loyalty, it's tempting to do all this gamification and sort of new stuff, and every brand has their own idea for things to do. But we're also supporting a merchant base of nearly 100,000 merchants. And so we have to balance like, hey, how out of the box are we going to think with these loyalty programs versus what's tried and true by these brands that are custom building their in-house programs. And so we're always walking this like fine line of like what is scalable to like many brands versus like what should we build that's like pushing the envelope. The one thing that we've seen that brands are interested in though is identifying the customer in many different places. So retail has been like a big expansion area for us, where the brands want loyalty programs expanding into their Shopify POS locations so they can identify customers across these channels, which allows them to justify a higher ad spend because the customer lifetime value is higher across these channels. So I know there's a bit of a long answer, but we typically look at the biggest programs in the world and try and replicate the efficient parts of those.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't have the Temu wheel in your platform though, do you? You haven't gone down that path.
Sorry?
You haven't got the Temu spinning wheel as part of your platform yet. No.
Yeah. It's funny. They were showing at the keynote all those old Unites. I remember a flashy app that was the spin wheel, and I was like, man, every other site has a spin wheel in 2017 or whatever.
Yeah, Temu stole that. The guys that built that Shopify app should be suing Temu, shouldn't they? But yeah, no. But yeah, look, I'd love to sort of go talk a little bit more about the app ecosystem, more just from like your long-term experience and the view that you have every day. Like, I don't know, I'm an optimist about the opportunities that are still available in the Shopify platform. I guess I have to be because I've just started an app business. But I'd love to just hear your thoughts on if you're starting out today, or if you were building an app, building an app business to start today. What sort of areas would you look at? How would you go about building something that actually is going to offer value in the ecosystem today?
I'll offer two approaches. So the first, which I've always been a big fan of, is start as an agency and then appize one of your projects for a company. That way, there's like money to be had charging for that problem, and you can find something that's probably not commoditized. You can find something you have a unique insight into, or a unique niche of merchants. The other thing is go really, really upmarket, because within these enterprises, there's all these niche problems. Jay was on your last podcast half an hour ago, and like that's an example. Like Ocello does an example of a problem that like probably very few merchants face at scale, where they're like updating thousands and thousands of marketplace listings. But that's a niche problem, and you can find app opportunities upmarket in these niche areas, and that's something that Shopify is probably not going to solve if like only a handful of merchants experience that problem. But it's very painful for them, and they're willing to pay for the solution to that.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, great answers. I mean, I think I gave a talk yesterday, and it's going to be similar to my answers, which is just, my guidance is build durable apps. So identify real problems that merchants have and solve them all the way through, not shallowly, like really work with them and solve them all the way through. And I think merchants pass through a lot of life cycles. So they're launching, they're growing, they're scaling, then they're optimizing. And that happens a lot. Like they can spin through those cycles. Like maybe there's a new product they want to launch, maybe a new market. So really live with them and grow with them and scale with them and optimize with them. And I think that's going to become more and more important. Of course, I would have to bring up Built for Shopify. We have to talk about it. Yeah, I would default to Built for Shopify. We invest in that program because it's what merchants are asking for. And we are matching apps that are built for Shopify to merchants. And we're giving a boost to those apps because those apps have put in a lot of work to just be better, right? And so those are a couple things. Also, I'll touch on localization. So Shopify is growing in other markets other than North America, and there's big opportunities to fill gaps there that are not just translations. And they include like product market fit in regions that may have additional features that are necessary.
Yeah, awesome. And you touched on POS as well before, Mike. I think that's another one, isn't it? Like from Australia, there's a few people that are here this week, like Josh Batossi and POS Cafe and stuff. Like they're a great story of someone who has built something that's actually super, super niche. But yeah, it's where there's not, you can have a lot less competition doing something like that than if you try and build a cheap version of Smile, which doesn't have the credibility. You got to bring something new to the table, don't you? And
yeah. And I mentioned like super complex large businesses. Like if Shopify brings a brand on board that has 100, 200 POS locations, those are typically not like the flashy new D2C brand that just grew from 0 to 500 million over the past 2 years. They're usually brands that have been around for 20, 30 plus years, and they have complex operations in them, and they have really tough to solve problems. And those are huge opportunities for app builders. Loyalty happens to be one of them. Like their loyalty programs are usually complex across many channels. They have lots of requirements, but they have hundreds of problems, and they have old IT systems, and they're ripe for like app opportunities there. So these complex businesses that have real product market fit with legacy brands that have a lot of like brand sort of legacy in a positive sense. Those are huge opportunities for app builders. You just got to put in the work to like go get embedded with them and figure out what those problems are. But like Toby said, if you fall in love with the problem, then you can actually go seek out all these like cool things Shopify is doing to actually solve it, and you don't get like locked into what you're actually trying to solve.
Oh, that's it. Like I've heard like stories this week, like just it was in the keynote yesterday, people that start off working in their mum and dad's shop and they see that there's inefficiency in the warehouse and they build an inventory system for it that scales. I think also that's it too. It's just that understanding of the vertical you're going into, and that's where the niche opportunity is so great, isn't it? Like people have built stuff where they've seen something that they actually understand the problem. Like I think that's it. If you go in and try and build something to be everything to everyone, or you don't have that actual affiliation with it, then that's where you're probably going to fall flat before you get started, and that's a much bigger problem than not having enough reviews or people making a copycat of your app or whatever, isn't it? I think to me that's the key message that I see from everyone is you've just got to build stuff where you've got some affiliation, some passion, a story to tell, and that's how you start the distribution, isn't it? Because you're not just going to put something in the app store and have it magically start ticking over, and that's just not going to happen, is it?
No, and I think this event is a great opportunity to take advantage. There's agency partners here, you could connect with them, and there's other apps to network with, and this is just a great community to also learn from and grow from. I think it's amazing to be here and just see how everyone here just wants everyone else to win, and so really take advantage of that, especially now that you're here.
Yeah. No, awesome. And look, we're going to wrap up in a minute. I'm going to finish off with a nice, easy question. And I might end up going and building this app next week. We'll see. I'm just going to ask you, if you were building an app tomorrow, what would you build?
I would jump on the catalog API and try and build something like that. So there's a lot of influencers out there that have a lot of like reach, but they don't have products to sell. And then you have a catalog API with all the Shopify products. So it's like there seems like something there to connect like the reach with like the product inventory. And I think something overlapping those two in a Venn diagram would be sort of where I'd start. That said, consumer apps are hard. So that's the opposite of all the other advice I had, which is like find something people want to pay for. But I think that's a really cool opportunity. And I think there's only like certain periods in time where there's like a window to do something. And I think that might be one there.
Yeah, it's an exciting space, that, isn't it? Like no one's really quite worked out what to do with it yet either, have they? So that's really exciting. I know you're going to say you're going to build like an announcement bar app or something. Is that right? Yeah.
Definitely not. I think B2B is underserved, and I think their problems are like the kinds of problems, like you said, you can really fall in love with, and their problems are very distinct and very challenging. So there's a honeypot there of problems to work on, and I think there's still a lot on the table we're leaving. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the B2B space just has. I think people get a little bit. Find it a little bit boring sometimes, but I've always found, particularly in my agency days, the most interesting problems to solve are in that space. And I think the people who are building stuff in that space, I've even come across a couple of people this week who've built really cool stuff for B2B, but they just need to find a way to be passionate about it and get it out there, don't they? Because it's and I think that's the case with everything. Like, there's just so many great stories of people, and that's the most wonderful thing about this whole week, isn't it? Like, you must get energy from that as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. This is like Super Bowl time for me, and I love this event, and wish we did it more often.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I could fly from Melbourne to Toronto too many more times a year, but it's like an absolute honeypot of gathering information, and I feel like, to be honest, just picking your brain for half an hour has been an absolute privilege for me, hopefully some other people listen to it as well. Jonathan, Mike, thank you so much for joining the Shopify App Show. It's been an absolute pleasure doing this here in Toronto. So enjoy the rest of the conference. Hopefully have a beer with you at the block party later.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a wrap. I'm ready for a beer now.